Hello, BookTube. You know what's been missing from BookTube? Reading events. That's what we need, is another reading event. And I am part of a new reading event taking place in September with Mark at Book Time with Elvis and Sean D. Stanfast and Michael K. Vaughn. The four of us together are doing an event designed to celebrate the private eye, the House Dick. And we are calling the event Dicktember. And there's a specialized hashtag that doesn't spell out the word Dicktember, because if you use that hashtag, the one that spells out Dicktember, you will get, well, let's just say you will be stimulated in an entirely different way than the way that we intend. We intend our Dicktember to be a celebration of private eyes, of private detectives. I view it as an extremely affectionate adjunct event to March Mystery Madness, which is a long way away. It's months and months away. March Mystery Madness is an event that I've been a part of for years that celebrates murder mysteries, and one element, one subgenre of murder mysteries is private detective stories. So we're giving the private detective stories a little bit of extra attention. Purely in my mind, purely in an adjunct and wonderfully additive way, not in any kind of competition with March Mystery Madness. And here we are going to run into, as often comes up in events that make the mistake of involving me, into questions of definition. I think we can largely assume here that a private detective is someone who is not affiliated with the police department or any kind of law enforcement agency, and kind of sort of leave it at that. I think that's a good enough blanket categorization to start with. Someone who solves crimes, who is probably commissioned on a financial basis to solve or inquire into a mystery of some kind, and who works either with or in opposition to, but not as part of, an official crime-solving force, police, royal, otherwise. Which means that technically, if you're going by a broad definition like that, you are not just talking about a slope-browed Sam Spade character. You could have private eyes going all the way back to ancient Egypt. And plenty of writers have done that, have done exactly that. The key, I think, for a private eye is that they are working outside of the official mechanism of law enforcement. Whether the author wants to make hay of that fact by making them in opposition to law enforcement, or maybe making the official mechanism of law enforcement the bad guy, the person who did the crime, is up to the author. You've seen, I'm sure, watching movies or reading some of these novels, I'm sure that you have seen some of the stereotypes. The stereotypes in ye olden days that I imagine will be covered exclusively by Sean Stanfast. The private eye was almost always a man. He was usually had his name stenciled on the glass window of his office, but he usually wasn't making a whole lot of money, and needed every case that walked through the door. And in the worst, most woolly of stereotypes, the case that walks through the door is a bombshell of a woman. She was a cool drink of ice from her head to her toes, if you know what I mean. Which not only, that wooliest of stereotypes, not only implies that women are all trouble, no comment, but also implies that these things are written for men. Women aren't going to enjoy it because, of course, women are being described as livestock animals. That has been exploded and broadened enormously in the last 50 private eyes that were introduced to the reading public in the new books of 2022, 2021, and 2020. Of those 50, 49 were women. So that old stereotype belongs firmly in the past, but a lot of great books were written with those stereotypes in full operation. And you probably know private eyes from those old stereotypes, from the Maltese Falcon or whatnot. But there's a lot more variety that goes on. I'm not pledging to explore that variety. I may stick with the tried and true. I don't actually know what I'm going to be reading for Dicktember. I have all of August to let the Brattle Bookshop here in Boston provide me with private eye books. I know that there was a huge private eye anthology of short stories. I love anthologies of short stories when approaching a subgenre like this, because they will invariably introduce me to authors whose body of work I want to know. And the good ones will also introduce me to a wide variety of how authors have approached this whole thing. I know there's a huge anthology of such stories. I don't remember what it was. I want to say it was one of those vintage big books, the Big Book of the Private Eye or something like that. It's on the tip of my tongue, but I've been racking my brains trying to figure out what it is, and I don't know. But anthologies like that and individual books will crop up at the Brattle Bookshop between now and when Dicktember starts, and they will determine my TBR. The only thing I know for sure I will do once Dicktember starts is the usual thing that I do, which is to further analyze private eye fiction. What it is, how it works, how we can tell what it is and how it works, why it works that way. The usual boring Jesuitical stuff that I can't seem to not do. So if you are interested, if you haven't read a private eye novel in forever and ever, if you want to read some and you want to see people talk about them, put Dicktember on your list for September BookTube events. There'll be no shortage of such events. What's one more? So I'll leave a link to my co-host down below. I'm sure you know their channels already, and hope you join us. I'm going to have a lot to say about Dicktember when the time comes. Just make sure you use the right hashtag. Okay? So that you don't introduce accidentally some sort of obscene whoopee cushion into your day. Thank you, BookTube.